Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. Thanks. Content warning. The following video contains material that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Mitchell Jordan Young.
Sir, do you understand the charges against you?
You gotta respond. Calm down, listen to her.
Mr. Young, I'm going to ask that you listen at this time.
Background. The Ciprianos family lived in Farmington Hills, a wealthy community just outside of Detroit, Michigan. The family was composed of the father, Robert Cipriano, 52, the mother Rosemary, 51, and 4 children, Tucker, 19, the twins Salvatore and Tanner, 17, and Isabella 8 years old. Robert Bob Cipriano was a beloved public school administrator while his wife Rosemary was a fitness instructor. Tucker Cipriano was adopted at the age of 4 by the Ciprianos. He always struggled with the fact he was adopted. Tucker started drinking and doing drugs at an early age and having problems with the police when he was a teenager. The Cipriano family did everything they could to help him, especially his mother Rosemary. When Tucker was a child, Rosemary drove him frequently to get treatment for his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and learning disability. Later, when Tucker was a teenager and started using drugs and having problems with the police, she attended substance abuse classes to better understand and help him. Still, despite all the love and support he received from his adoptive family, the use of drugs and bad influences turned out to be deadly. The attack. On the 16th of April 2012, Tucker Cipriano and Mitchell Young broke in the Ciprianos' house carrying a baseball bat. During the attack, both perpetrators were under the influence of a synthetic drug called K2. This particular drug that now is deemed illegal was sold in convenience stores at the time of the incident. Tucker Cipriano, Mitchell Young plus another friend of the aggressors, Ian Zinderman, were homeless. On the night of the 15th, prior to the attack, the 3 young men broke into the garage twice to steal cash and cart gifts from the vehicles. During the 2 first times they went to the house, Ian Zinderman helped Tucker break into the garage while Mitchell stayed at the wheel of his truck. On the 3rd time they returned, Ian knew what was about to happen, so he refused to take part in it. Ian Zinderman was dropped at a friend's house in Kego Harbor while Tucker and Mitchell drove off. Then on the 16th, at around 2:30 a.m., Tucker and Mitchell returned alone to the Ciprianos' house. This time was Mitchell the one who helped Tucker break into the garage. Tucker opened the garage door from inside and let Mitchell in. The family dog perceived the intruders and attacked them when they were inside the kitchen. The dog bit Tucker Cipriano and in response the aggressors hit and injured severely the family's pet. Robert Cipriano heard the commotion downstairs and descended to the 1st floor wearing just his underwear. He found Tucker in the kitchen and told him to leave. According to Tucker's testimony, Robert never saw Mitchell because he was hiding behind a coat rack. One of them struck Robert Cipriano with the bat and stunned him. Then, while one of the aggressors held Robert Cipriano's arms from behind, the other beat him with the baseball bat until Robert fell unconscious on the floor.
We also know that when Bob's body is found, it's lying in a very strange position, and people don't fall like that. He's got one arm behind his back and the other arm is sort of twisted around. The left arm is like it had been behind his back. People don't fall like that. That's kind of indicative. That looks like someone held Bob from behind. And there's good reason to believe that that person was Tucker Cipriano. Tucker Cipriano held Bob from behind. while the bat was applied. And what we can say is that bat, the murder weapon, has got Bob's DNA on it. Tucker's excluded from it, but Mitchell Young cannot be excluded from it.
He stated he held him from behind, and Roderick was hitting him in the head with a baseball bat.
Exhibit number 5 is an excerpt from the interview that was taken of Mr. Cipriano himself, Tucker Cipriano, on April the 16th by Detective Webby and Detective McDonald at the Farmington Hills Police Station. And in pertinent part, they were talking to him about what happened after they had entered the house. And he had gotten in, he said he had gotten in through a window and he had let Mr. Young in through a door. And at that point, he was attacked by the family dog, and it awakened the people in the house. And his father then came into the kitchen. And the detective says, so your dad comes down, he tells you guys to leave. You take a step to go leave, and then a fight breaks out? And Mr. Cipriano says, yeah, because I look behind me, and my dad, all I see is my dad, like, here's the door right by the kitchen, where they're walking in. Here's that door to the outside where Roderick is Mitchell Young, was hiding over in the corner under the coats and shit. And my parents are walking down here. Question, did your dad see Roderick at this point? Apparently he did, because when I turned around, he's like over here, looking like this over in the corner. And I'm like, I knew something was going to happen when he was like, get the hell out of my house. Then shit turned bad. At this point he says, so the first part of the fight was more physical, or did Roderick come out from behind with the baseball bat swinging? And Mr. Cipriano says, I don't think he ever hit him with just the bat. Okay, and you grabbed your dad? And Mr. Cipriano says, yeah. And he started hitting him in the head, and Mr. Cipriano says, yeah. And he hit him a bunch of times, and Mr. Cipriano says, a bunch. And then the detectives ask, when did he fall? Your dad fall? Did he hit him while he was on the ground or just while he was standing? And Mr. Cipriano replies, I think he hit him on the ground too.
Tucker also added Mitchell kept beating and Robert even after he had fallen. In another version of the events, Mitchell said that he never hit Robert Cipriano, it was Tucker all alone.
Tucker went crazy, took off after his father with a baseball bat. Mitchell advised, he began yelling, what the are you doing, what the are you doing? And he stated that Tucker then turned to him and said, if you don't get with the program, you don't shut up, you're going to join them.
This part of the incident is not clear because both of them accused the other of doing the beating, and they changed their statements several times during interrogation. However, forensic evidence seemed to point that Tucker was the one holding his father's arms while Mitchell was doing the beating. Rosemary came downstairs after her husband. When she entered the kitchen, she saw Tucker beating Robert Cipriano while he was on the floor, and pleaded with him to stop. Tucker handed the bat to Mitchell and told him to keep her quiet. Mitchell hit Rosemary with the baseball bat. Rosemary ran away to the living room. Mitchell chased her and started beating in her.
She starts also yelling, and she's telling Tucker that, I love you, we'll give you money, just stop, and was yelling at Tucker as Tucker was striking Mr. Cipriano. At that point in time, Mitchell advised that Tucker then handed him the bat and told Mitchell to shut her up.
Did Tucker Cipriano make any statements in regards to his mother, if she ever became involved?
Yes.
What, if anything, did he state?
He states that his mother came down shortly after Roderick was hitting his dad, and when she came down, she was near a center island in the kitchen, and at that time, she had a stupid look upon her face, like she didn't know what was happening, and that's when Roderick hit her in the head with a bat and then chased her into the living room area.
The little Isabella, who woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of the screams, descended to the first floor and saw Mitchell beating her mother with the bat. Tucker, who was watching the attack, shouted at her to go back upstairs. Isabella ran upstairs and looked for a weapon she could use to fight the aggressors. Then bravely the little girl returned, carrying her multicolored softball bat in an attempt to defend her mother and father. Tucker disarmed his sister and dropped the bat on the floor. Then he picked her up, carried her upstairs, and told her to stay there for her own safety. While Tucker was upstairs, he saw his brother Salvatore in his bedroom removing his BB gun from the gun case. Tucker rushed into the room and attacked him before he had time to use the gun. Both fought and Tucker took the gun from him. Salvatore escaped from his bedroom and ran downstairs. Tucker chased his brother and they fought again in the hallway. Salvatore was overpowered and also brutally beaten. First with the gun until it broke, and then with a baseball bat. Tucker said at this point his brother Salvatore was making gurgling sounds. Tucker felt sick and rushed to the bathroom to throw up. Tucker returned to the living room and alerted Mitchell that Salvatore's twin, Tanner, was also in the house. He told Mitchell that Tanner's bedroom was upstairs. Tanner Cipriano escaped unharmed because he was hiding in the bedroom's closet. While he was hidden in the closet, he heard the aggressors searching for him. It was Tanner, the one who called 911.
What city are you in? What city are you in? Hello? Talk to me. Can you talk to me, please? What's been going on there? Your brother? I can't understand you. What is going on there? Your brother and your friend are there? Yes. And they're being rescued there? Yes. Go inside or something so you can tell me what's going on. Yes. That should be the case. Okay, hold on just a second.
The aggressors perceived the police flashing lights and panicked. They dragged Rosemary and Salvatore's bodies towards the basement stairs so the police wouldn't see them. The police officers arrived at the house and rang at the door. Then they saw a figure running upstairs, but they did not know who it was. Later, it was confirmed it was Mitchell. Tucker ran away from the back door and drove off with Mitchell's truck, leaving his partner in crime behind. Mitchell found Isabella upstairs and grabbed the young girl by the arm. But the young Isabella broke free from his grip and ran downstairs to open the door to the police. Minutes later, Mitchell came downstairs and the police officers arrested him. They said Mitchell was soaked in blood, shaking, and crying hysterically. Tucker escaped the crime scene, but he too was apprehended hours later at the Kigo Harbo's house together with Ian Zinderman. The police officer described the scene as ghastly, with blood spatters on the refrigerator, cabinets, and ceiling. The police found Rosemary and Salvatore barely alive. Their bodies were found in the stairwell leading to the basement. Under Salvatore's body, laid the two bloodied baseball bats used to beat them. Rosemary and Salvatore Cipriano were permanently injured. Salvatore was left mute and permanently brain damaged. Robert Cipriano didn't survive the attack. He had severe cranial fractures, and one of his ears had been shredded with the power of a blow. The patriarch of the family was alive after the beating, but he was bleeding so profusely, the blood flooded his airways and he ended up drowning in his own blood.
The injury that I was referring is in this area around the temporal area, and the forehead, and on almost the entire face.
And how would you categorize those injuries, sir?
It's a blunt trauma. The other injury is on the left side of the head that has a large laceration and multiple injuries inside of these two injuries.
Now, Doctor, I'm noticing too that the left ear seems to be shredded.
Yes.
And what's that a result of?
It's a really heavy impact that was given in that area.
All right, and how would you categorize that entire injury that you're seeing there?
This is a blunt force trauma. Due to the impacts on the head, there were fractures on the base of the skull, and the hemorrhage was going to the airways. Then, because he was still alive, breathing, at the time the hemorrhage went into the lungs, and actually he drowned in his own blood.
He drowned in his own blood.
Salvatore Cipriano was so critically injured that Dr. McDowell, the doctor who took care of both victims at their arrival at the hospital, contacted an organ donation service. Salvatore had multiple skull fractures, multiple facial bone fractures, and swelling and bleeding in his brain.
He's covered in blood. from head to toe pretty much. He was just in his underwear. He also has the swelling of the eyes, the discoloration of the eyes. He's also, I was present when they were cutting away his hair and actually pulling away parts of the scalp to insert this type of drain tube directly into his head. And doctor advised because he had a lot of hemorrhaging inside of his brain. I'd asked. There's also the obviously talking about a lot of sutures, staples from the open head wounds from where he's brought into the hospital.
Rosemary Cipriano had both her arms broken, skull and facial bone fractures, and also bleeding in her brain. Dr. McDowell, who regularly assists victims of assault, said, "This is certainly by far the worst that I've seen."
What did you notice about Rose?
I noticed obviously the fact that she's covered in blood, that she's obviously a large swelling and bruising in the face area, especially particularly to the eyelid, which is indicative of the type of a head injury.
Mitchell Young. Sir, would you please state your name for the record?
Mitchell Jordan Young.
Sir, do you understand the charges against you?
You gotta respond. Calm down, listen to her.
Mr. Young, I'm going to ask that you listen at this time. I'll indicate that these are the charges against you. How do you wish to plead to the charges?
I'm not guilty. I didn't do any of that.
That I will enter a plea of not guilty for...
The interrogation. During the police interrogation, both aggressors stated they were not the ones doing the beating, and blamed the other for being the mastermind of the attack. Tucker said he never struck his father. He said he just held him while Mitchell was the one who beat him. Mitchell responded by saying he never hit Robert Cipriano, it was Tucker all alone. Then Mitchell claimed that Tucker went crazy, killed his father, and beat his brother with a baseball bat. He initially denied being part of the attack. He claimed he tried to stop Tucker, and that Tucker had also hit him. But later, when he found out Isabella had told officers she saw him beating her mother, he changed his statement.
I would also ask for admission of exhibit number 3, which is the statement that was given the night of the homicide by Isabella Cipriano at the Farmington Hills Police Department. She was taken from the scene where she had actually witnessed some of the things go down, and she told the police this. She said, "So this is the story. So I woke up and I went downstairs and I saw this boy pounding my mom with a bat, and Tucker was there too. Tucker said, go back upstairs, but I didn't. I went downstairs. And then my mom and she said, you can take my purse. But then I went around and hid the purse so they wouldn't take it, so they wouldn't find it and take it. And then I went back upstairs. And Tucker said to go downstairs, but I didn't want to. So, but then he's carrying me downstairs. Salvatore, that's one of the victims in this case, he was upstairs, and Tucker went to get him to get his BB gun. And then Salvatore was on the floor, and he was trying to step on the BB gun. And I got my bat. I was trying to get Tucker, but then Tucker took my bat and started to pound Tor, that's Salvatore, and my mom with the other kid. And then the whole thing, they went downstairs, and then after that, the police came. After a while, after that, the police came. That was a statement of Isabella, and that's exhibit number 3.
Then Mitchell admitted having struck Rosemary Cipriano at the command of Tucker. He said the only reason he did it was because Tucker had threatened him.
He became very emotional.
Can you describe that for us?
He began crying, put his head against his, or down between his knees, and he asked for a a garbage can because he thought he was going to get sick.
Did he remain emotional throughout the pendency of your interview?
There were a couple times while talking to him after telling him that he began getting upset. It wasn't the whole time, but I would say 1 or 2 times after telling him and after that initial time that he began crying, that he became upset. We asked him if he was on drugs at that time or anything that would make him where he was unaware of what happened that night.
Okay, and what was his answer?
He said he smoked spice, but he didn't smoke it that night. And he did not drink or do drugs in that 24-hour period.
During the trial, Tucker said he loved his family, that his father was a great man, and Rosemary was an amazing mother. He also stated that he knew that his brother, Tanner Cipriano, was hidden upstairs in one of the bedrooms, but he said nothing to spare his life, and that he begged his sister to hide from them so she wouldn't be hurt. In response, John Skrzyński, the assistant prosecutor, called him a liar and said it was another example of his continuous attempts to refuse to accept full responsibility for his actions. Skrzyński further explained himself by pointing out Tanner Cipriano's statements collected by the police. Tanner told the police that Tucker was searching the house for him and that he heard Tucker saying to Mitchell, "There's still one more."
And exhibit number 4 was the statement that was given the night of the murders, April the 16th, at the Farmington Hills Police Station by Tanner Cipriano. And he said he was being questioned by one of the detectives, and he was on the phone. He was concealed under a desk. He was on the phone to 911. And he said, yeah, I talked to the lady for about a couple of minutes, and then he runs in. Tucker ran into the room. What was Tucker wearing? I still had, the light was off. It was all dark, and so he runs into the room. Was he wearing dark clothes? Answer, yeah. Did it look like the same clothes you seen the guy with the bat? I didn't get a good look. Okay, are you positive it was Tucker at this point? Yeah. He was looking. He was talking as he was looking for me. He was yelling back to his friend. He was like, there's one more, there's one more. So first he came in looking on like the bed and stuff. Didn't find me. So he ran back outside and started breaking more stuff. I don't know what he was doing, but I was still on the phone with the operators. Okay, then he came back in. Yeah, came back in a couple of minutes later, and he brought a lighter to look under the bed. Okay, and he was looking under the bed at the time? Yeah. And lighting it up with a lighter? Yeah. And you heard him say there's one more? Yeah. He was yelling back at his friend like, yeah, like, look everywhere. Did he say look everywhere? Yeah. There's one more. Now you say he found you eventually? No, he didn't. That was a statement given that night by Tanner. That's exhibit number 4.
Initially, Tucker Cipriano pleaded not guilty to the charges of first-degree felony murder, but after a jail phone conversation with his uncle and his brother Tanner, he reverted his plea to no contest. Tucker's uncle's motivation was to spare the survivors of the family from having to testify in court.
How did you wish to plead to the charges?
Not guilty.
I will enter a plea of not guilty for you. Are you able to hire your own attorney?
I am not. I would like a court appointed.
I will note that you're requesting court-appointed counsel.
Possession of spice, or K2, on that particular morning or just before midnight, did you ingest any other type of hallucinogens?
I recall eating mushrooms.
Tell the judge what are mushrooms? What are shrooms?
They're drugs for hallucinations. And
what else? What else happened there when they arrested you?
I remember getting kicked in the face, and I remember other police saying that, taunting me, saying I should have killed myself.
When you made the statement, I don't want to talk, what did you mean?
That I didn't want to talk, that I didn't want to talk about what happened.
I feel disrespectful saying this, but I feel like fighting for the rest of my life is the only thing I have. The only option I have left is giving up is like hanging myself, Greg. That's what it feels like to me.
Well, your dad paid for it with his life. And if you have any hope whatsoever of redemption of your soul, you will do something
Greg, don't come at me like that. I ain't crying over no anymore. You know, I lost my dad, I lost my mom, I lost my little sister, I lost you, I lost my brothers.
what is more meaningful to me that you could take responsibility for the first time in your life, just as a dad would always wanted you to. The biggest moment of your life could be right now, to be deciding that this child is about forgiveness, taking responsibility, and loving each other.
And that opened my eyes and broke my heart. I feel like the only way that I'll be able to express my love for the family, I'm taking responsibility, I'm sorry for treating you the way I did. I love you, and I'm very, very, very proud of you.
You also understand, should you enter a plea of either no contest or guilty to the charge of first-degree felony murder, that you will go to prison for the rest of your life.
Yes, sir.
You will not be paroled.
Yes, sir.
You will die in prison.
Yes, sir.
The only way you'll get out of prison is if the President of the United States gives you a pardon or the governor commutes your sentence. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
The chances of that happening are probably slim to none.
Yes, sir.
So you're willing to accept the rest of your life in prison and take a plea?
Yes, sir.
You understand if you're sitting in prison and 10 years from now, you say, gee, I shouldn't have done this, or why did my lawyer talk me out of it? You're stuck. You're there.
Yep.
And you want to go forward.
Yep.
And nothing to it.
During the police interrogation, Mitchell denied having beaten Robert Cipriano. Yet, while blood spatters matching Robert Cipriano's DNA were found in Mitchell's pants, none were found in Tucker's. Robert Cipriano's body worked as a shield to prevent the blood spatters from reaching Tucker. Assistant Prosecutor John Skrasinski showed to the members of the jury graphic photos of the bloody crime scene, focusing on the blood splatters across surfaces throughout the home. He also presented photos of Mitchell Young's pants splattered with blood as proof that Mitchell was present and took part in the attack. Ian Zinderman was the key witness presented by the prosecutors. He agreed to testify in exchange for immunity. Zinderman admitted had been part of the 2 first times the aggressors broke into the house to steal money, but not the 3rd time when the attack occurred.
Picked assignments, discussed about picking assignments on which family member to kill. Young was supposed to take the parents, and Cipriano was going to take his brothers.
He also said that weeks prior to the incident, Tucker and Mitchell already had spoken several times about killing the Cipriano's family.
They wanted to throw him in the river. The Detroit River, and weigh him down by barrels or something like that.
Zinderman admitted he helped Tucker breaking into the garage the 2 first times they went to the Cipriano's residency. On the first time, Tucker stole a check and a gift card from one of the vehicles. The 3 used the money to fill up Mitchell's truck with gasoline, and to buy spice. Later that same night, they returned to the house and Tucker broke into the garage again. Yet this second time, Tucker only found a gift card with less than $3 on it. Zinderman then said that while at the gas station, Mitchell and Tucker started once more talking about killing the Cipriano's family and stealing from them. They wanted to secure enough cash and a vehicle to leave the state, possibly to Tennessee or Mexico.
And Mr. Zinderman indicated the following: I recall Tucker being there, Roderick, who was Mitchell Young, and they having a discussion with Mr. Cipriano that day. He said it was about they might be doing a job for money. They was talking about possibly hurting a family or killing a family. And I asked him, who was it that said they were thinking about killing a family? He said, I remember Tucker saying it. I think Roderick was present at the time. Tucker was offering me some money to help out, be the getaway driver, or possibly helping cover up. I was supposed to get a share of the money. I think it might have been 1/3. Tucker Cipriano was estimating about $3 grand. I would take home $1,000. Mr. Zinderman had left the truck where they were, both Mr. Cipriano and Mr. Young were, and he came back to the truck. He said, I go back to the truck when I'm done having a cigarette. Are they at the truck? Answer, yes. They are talking. It was how they were going to get money. Both of them were talking. They decided on going to the Cipriano's house and killing them, killing the family. They were talking about which family member should be taken care of, who would take care of which family members by killing. It was decided that Tucker was to go after his 2 brothers, and Roderick was going to go after the mom and dad. And Roderick was supposed to go for the sister, from what I understand. Roderick said he was going to kill the mother and father? Yes. Tucker said he would kill the brothers? Yes. It was discussed that the father was going to go first, to get killed first, because he was bigger and more of a threat. And the question was, they were both discussing it. He said they were planning on weighing the bodies down with barrels and throwing them in the river, the Detroit River. They were planning on, after the killing was done, taking the cars and objects of value that they can get money off of. Tucker wanted to run away to Mexico. They were going to sell the cars. There was talk about that and live off the money. I asked, was it immediately decided that they were going to kill the Cipriano family? The answer was no. They were debating about the Hodge family. This is the neighbor. They didn't have as much money as the Ciprianos had. So they decided the Ciprianos were better than the Hodges. Answer, yes. And then he went on to say, I said, they want to fuck up their life, they can do it on their own accord. Don't bring me into it. He then asked them to drop him off at a house in Kego Harbor, which they did.
Zinderman also added that the whole attack was planned while the three of them were high on K2, the synthetic marijuana drug. After Zinderman had refused to take part in the killing, he was dropped at the friend's house in Kego Harbor. Zinderman said he told Tucker and Mitchell, quote, "That's when I said no more. I'm out. If you want to F up your own life, you can F it up on your own accord." Unquote. Then Zinderman testified Tucker asked to smoke more spice to banish second thoughts about killing his family. The next time Zinderman saw Tucker was when he showed up in the Kego's house wearing a bloody shirt. He also noticed a wound on Tucker's left side that seemed to be of a dog bite. Tucker started washing off the blood. Zinderman said Tucker was very quiet, the only he said was, "I messed it up." Zinderman gave Tucker another shirt to wear, and Tucker smoked spice again with other friends at the house.
Oh no, I gave him a new shirt.
Why did you do that?
I didn't feel comfortable with him wearing a bloody shirt.
Tucker asked Zinderman to get rid of the pickup truck, but when Zinderman was walking towards the truck, the police showed up and arrested them. Skrzyński suggested Tucker wanted to be the one killing his brothers because he was jealous of them. While he was a homeless with drug addiction, both of his brothers were school athletes and good students.
I never had the intent to hurt anyone. I didn't go there intending to harm anyone, let alone to kill someone. That's a terrible thing. They're saying that I did this to people that I've never met, that I had absolutely nothing against, at a place that I've never been to, with someone that I've been the acquaintance of for about 3 weeks, a little less than a month. I attempted to intervene, and that's when I was injured, and that's why I was taken to Botsford Hospital and treated for a dislocated jaw. I went there under the impression that I was helping Tucker Cipriano pick up his personal belongings. You know, I had a pickup truck. That's why he asked me to give him a ride.
Mitchell Young made a well-written statement claiming he did not receive proper legal assistance from his attorney, Michael McCarthy. He insisted he was innocent and had been the victim of a strong miscarriage of justice. Among other things, he stated he pointed out several discrepancies in the testimony of the main witness, Ian Zinderman, that his attorney should have used in his defense, but McCarthy refused to comply.
1. I was not provided with the opportunity to inspect all tangible physical evidence that the prosecution intended to produce against me at trial, despite my request per MCR 6.201. I was not provided with any criminal record of all the witnesses the prosecution produced or intended to produce against me, despite my request to the same MCR. This list continues further, but in short, I was not allowed the opportunity to properly prepare my defense due to the lack of information in the discovery with which I was provided. I do not know why I was not provided with this information, but the why does not change the fact that my requests for information that I had every legal right to were completely ignored. And this brings me to the subject of Michael McCarthy, my court-appointed attorney, and I would like to thank you, Michael, for the things that you had to say on my behalf. They were very kind, but unfortunately, I also do have to bring to attention, I do have to bring to attention that I'm not satisfied completely with the counsel that you have provided me. I believe there were many things that should have been done that weren't. As Michael McCarthy said, he and I have met countless times over the course of this case where I expressed my concerns and expectations involved in my defense. Unfortunately, these expectations were not met. I presented Michael with the names of witnesses who I wished to be called to testify on my behalf at trial, and to my knowledge, Michael did not so much as interview these individuals, and my request went ignored. During our meetings, I brought to Michael's attention numerous points that I wished for him to present at trial, and despite his assurances to me at the time, he neglected to address many of these issues. My intent was not to cause any harm. The only reason that I went there that night was to assist someone that asked me to help them pick up their personal belongings. And that quickly turned into a living nightmare that none of us have been able to wake up from. And I can't tell you how sorry I am that all of this has happened. And if there was anything that I could do to take it back and find a way to change what has happened, I would do everything in my power to. And
in my opinion, your absolute refusal to acknowledge any of your decisions or your activities in this event, your absolute refusal to take any responsibility is really unbelievable to me. You are clearly a very intelligent young man. You absolutely, without a doubt, know wrong from right. And you are very critical of Mr. Zinderman, but Mr. Zinderman was smart enough to walk away that night, knowing what the two of you were likely to do. You did not use your intellect, as Mr. Zinderman did, to walk away that night. And you could have, and you should have, and you chose not to. And you are not someone who does not know right from wrong. I do not believe the things that you are saying. I absolutely believe that you did this, you made decisions to do this, you played a significant role in this. As for Mr. McCarthy, he is an excellent attorney, and I don't think there is an attorney that could have done a better job defending you, for the record. So you need to take a look in the mirror and really take responsibility for the decisions that you've made, because you're right, you have a lot going for you. You could have been a lot in life, but you're not going to be because of your own decisions, not Mr. Cipriano's decisions, not Mr. Zinderman's decisions, not anybody else's decisions. They were your decisions. You made the decisions on your own, and you were smart enough to know better. So you have ruined your own life, along with the life of Cipriano. You were convicted of first-degree murder on two theories, that being first-degree premeditated murder and first-degree felony murder. There is one sentence imposed of natural life without parole. There's 464 days jail credit. On counts 3, 4, and 5, 23 years into 60 years, 464 days of jail credit.
My family has done a great deal for me and my siblings, which I will never be able to thank enough. I want my dad back, and so does Belly, my mom, Tanner, and Salvatore. Not only them, but everyone who got the chance to meet him. He taught me to hold my head up and be strong and be responsible, and that includes taking responsibility for my actions, thus suffering the consequences. He told me to be an older brother and a role model to my younger siblings, and I may not have stopped drinking. I may not have made responsible decisions, some of which I will never recover from or regain what I lost. I might have been an irresponsible and may have been an unpleasant older brother. But Tanner, Sal, and Belly, I love you guys with all my heart. Mom, you remember when the teachers had to detach us from you to be able to leave on my first day of first grade, but wouldn't let you go? Well, Mom, I wish I would have never let go. Dad, a lot of people miss you down here. I love you, and I hope, for what it's worth, I did what you would have wanted me to do and protected Belly and my family as much as I could. Dad, I'm here taking responsibility for my part, holding up my head as best I can. To everyone else, I'm sorry for paving the way for such violence and being a direct cause for such immense pain in so many people's past, present, and future. So like I said, for what it's worth, for anyone affected, let's come together, help each other and my family, mend and heal. Let's move on and try and enjoy the small things, a family dinner, a movie with friends, smiles and laughter. I stand before the people of the court, the community, my family and friends, but most importantly God, asking for forgiveness and confessing my sins and taking responsibility for my actions. This is my act of contrition. I speak on behalf of my family with love, you, Dad. Thank you for your time, patience, people of the court, and anyone who cared to listen. Much love, Tucker Robert Cipriano.
Mr. Cipriano, the only thing I can say to you is I'm sure you feel that you were dealt a difficult hands by the challenges that you started out with. But unlike most people in this world, I would say, you were given the gift of a wonderful family, a loving family, a supportive family. They did everything in their power to help you. But you just weren't willing to help yourself. You always wanted to take the easy way. You didn't want to do the hard work that life requires. And there are plenty of people in this world that have been dealt a very more difficult hand, much more difficult hand than you were dealt, and did the hard work. And you didn't want to do the hard. You just wanted to do the easy. And I really think that's what happened here. I really do. People with more challenges than you that fight through, they stand up, they're strong people, and they get to live good and positive life. And with all the support you had, all the love you had, you just threw it away because you didn't want to face the challenges, and you didn't want to be the stronger, bigger person. And you had the ability, you did, and you had the support, and you just didn't do the work. And that's really what happened here. And I'm sorry to say that. You ruined your life, you ruined lives of people who did nothing but love you. And that is the saddest part of it all. I'll read the sentence of this court. Count 2, life without parole.
Count 1, first degree premeditated murder, guilty of first degree premeditated murder. Count 2, first degree felony murder, guilty of felony murder. Count 3, assault with intent to murder, guilty of assault with intent to murder. Count 4, assault with intent to murder, guilty of assault with intent to murder. Count 5, armed robbery, guilty of armed robbery.
On July 24, 2013, Tucker Cipriano was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mitchell Young pled not guilty to all 5 charges: first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree murder, 2 counts of assault with intent to murder, and armed robbery. Mitchell Young was convicted on all 5 counts and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The appeal. On October 28, 2015, Mitchell Young's appeal was denied, and all convictions were upheld by the Michigan Supreme Court.
I'm Rose Cipriano, and this is my son, Salvatore Cipriano, who goes by Sal. We come from Detroit area, Farmington Hills. So Salvatore was in a walker, and he had a feeding tube, and he was having a hard time eating things, and he had a lot of, like, a paralyzation on his left side also.
The aftermath. The recovery of both victims was a difficult process. Although Salvatore did a remarkable recovery, it was a long, painful process that took him years. I have started this YouTube channel mainly to promote my work as a writer. If you like reading, I would like to suggest to you my first novel, Those Who Have Returned. It's a supernatural horror drama. Or, if you like my content, you can also subscribe or support me on Patreon so I can keep doing more videos. Thanks for watching the video until the end.